When you finally stop reaching out, when you stop checking in, when you stop handing out endless chances, something shifts. The moment you pull back, they feel it. And suddenly, the power isn't in their hands anymore. It's in yours. But listen carefully. This isn't about playing games. This isn't some cheap trick to make them chase you. This is about something far more powerful: self-respect. The Stoics believed that true strength lies in mastering what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, your emotions. You can't control how they see you, but you can control what you allow. And the moment you decide that you won't be taken for granted anymore, the entire dynamic changes. Think of it like fire and oxygen. The more air you give, the bigger the flame grows. But take that air away, the fire suffocates. That's how it works when someone gets used to your presence. They assume you'll always be there, always waiting, always available. But when you step back, when you take that oxygen away, the flame doesn't burn so bright anymore. And that's when they start to notice. Maybe at first they act like they don't care. Maybe they even pretend they're better off. But deep down, that silence isn't comfortable. It's deafening. The absence of someone they once took for granted starts to eat away at them. It forces them to sit with the truth they never wanted to face. They were never entitled to your time, your energy, or your love. You see, people don't value what they think they can always have. It's human nature. We only truly appreciate something when we realize it can be lost. The rarest gems aren't the ones lying around in the open. They're the ones locked away, out of reach, hard to find. The moment you make yourself scarce, your worth becomes undeniable. But let's be clear, walking away isn't about punishing them. It's about freeing yourself. It's about recognizing that you deserve more than one-sided effort, more than waiting for someone to appreciate you only after you're gone. You don't need to beg for respect. You show them the cost of losing you by actually being gone. In this video, we're breaking it all down. Why stepping back isn't just a strategy, it's a mindset rooted in self-worth, in discipline, in the undeniable truth that sometimes silence is the loudest message you can ever send. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why this is the most powerful move you'll ever make. Stay till the end, because I'll reveal something that will change the way you see yourself forever. If you're ready to step into your power, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss a video. And before we dive in, drop a comment below with this powerful affirmation: I am enough. Let this be your reminder, because you are. Let's get into it. 1. They never thought the sun would stop shining until it did. They thought you'd always be there, always waiting, always understanding. They got used to your patience, your kindness, your unwavering presence. And the moment someone believes you'll never leave, they stop valuing you. That's just how human nature works. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." People don't appreciate what they think they'll never lose. When something is always there, it blends into the background. Think about your favorite song, play it every single day, and eventually it just becomes noise. It loses its magic. The same thing happens in relationships. If they never have to wonder whether you'll be there, if they're certain of your presence, no matter how they treat you, they won't stop to appreciate it. You won't be someone to cherish. You'll just be there, like the air they breathe. But what happens when that air disappears? What happens when silence replaces your presence? When they reach for you and find only emptiness? That's when reality sets in. That's when they realize the cost of taking you for granted. Because nothing in life, not even you, is guaranteed. Maybe right now they're acting like they don't care. Maybe they even believe it. But deep down, something is shifting. Your absence is creating a space they never expected. It's forcing them to sit with a truth they never wanted to face. People assume the sun will always rise, but the day it stops shining, the world is thrown into darkness. And only then do they realize what they lost. Stoicism teaches us the power of detachment, not as a weapon, but as wisdom. Epictetus said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." The moment you step back, when you no longer beg to be valued, something powerful happens. You let reality do the teaching. You don't have to argue. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to beg for appreciation, because the absence of your presence will always say more than words ever could. Imagine a person who always shows up, always gives, always forgives. At first it seems admirable, but over time, they stop seeing it as special. They start seeing it as expected, and expectations kill appreciation. Now, picture someone who knows their worth. They don't announce their departure. They don't throw a tantrum or demand respect. They simply stop overextending, stop chasing, stop being the person others took for granted. And that's when they feel it. The emptiness, the loss, the realization that your presence wasn't just a given, it was a gift, and they threw it away. 2. They never noticed the light until it went out. Your absence hits different. They never thought they'd feel it, but now they do. People don't realize the weight of something until it's gone. They might have ignored your messages before, brushed off your efforts, assumed you'd always be there. But the moment you disappear, the silence cuts deeper than any words ever could. Seneca once said, "Loss is life's best teacher." And he was right. Your absence forces them to sit with the reality of what they took for granted. When you were always available, always checking in, always making an effort, they never had to wonder about you. It was predictable, comfortable, almost too easy. And that's exactly why they didn't value it. Because anything that feels guaranteed gets overlooked. But now they notice the space you once filled, the notifications that used to pop up, gone, the warmth of your attention, missing, the quiet security of knowing you'd always be there. It's no longer there, and that changes everything. Suddenly, what was once taken for granted becomes painfully obvious in its absence. This is the price of entitlement, the cost of assuming that no matter how they treated you, you'd always be waiting. They thought they had time, thought they could give the bare minimum and still keep you close. But time has a way of humbling people when they least expect it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Your silence isn't revenge, it's a shift, a change that forces them to reflect, to feel the loss, to question why they let someone like you slip away. And here's the beauty of it. You didn't have to argue, beg, or prove your worth. You simply stepped back. And that absence? It speaks louder than anything you could ever say. At first, they might enjoy the freedom. They might convince themselves they don't care. But give it time. One day, they'll reach for their phone, expecting a message from you, only to remember that it's not coming. They'll hear a song that reminds them of you, scroll past an old photo, or pass by a place you once went together, and suddenly it will hit them. Not all at once, but in waves. That's the thing about losing something real. It doesn't sting immediately. It sneaks up in quiet moments, in unexpected places, in the loneliness they never thought they'd feel. Because deep down, they knew you were different. They knew you genuinely cared. And now they finally understand that genuine people don't stay where they're unappreciated. Epictetus taught that we should value what is within our control and let go of what isn't. You can't control how they see you, but you can control how you respond. And by choosing silence, by stepping back, you're teaching the most powerful lesson of all. Your presence was never a guarantee. It was a gift. Maybe they'll come back. Maybe they won't. But one thing is certain. They will feel the loss. And if they truly value you, they won't return the same. Because now they know the truth. When you take someone for granted, you risk losing them forever. 3. No longer in the running. They were comfortable believing you'd always be there, an ever-present figure in their lives, a given, much like the air they breathe. Over time, you became nothing more than an option, taken for granted and overlooked. Epictetus once said, "Attachment leads to carelessness." And that's exactly what happened when they assumed you'd never leave. You were seen as a backup, a constant that they could rely on without ever truly appreciating your worth. Imagine a well-worn path through a forest. Every day, you walk it without noticing the beauty of the trees or the song of the birds. It becomes just a route, something expected. That's how your presence was treated. They expected your messages, your check-ins, your unwavering support. It was as predictable as the sunrise, and with that predictability came a dangerous sense of entitlement. They stopped valuing you because they assumed you'd always be around, no matter what. But when you step back, when you withdraw your attention, your energy, your validation, the dynamics begin to shift. Your silence speaks volumes. Without the constant reassurance, they are forced to confront a stark truth. You were never merely an option, you were the prize. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, do not place your worth in the hands of others. The moment you stop seeking validation, the power shifts. They start questioning why you are no longer chasing, why you no longer respond immediately. And suddenly, the absence of your presence creates a void that echoes louder than any words could. Consider the metaphor of a precious gem hidden in plain sight. For years, its brilliance is taken for granted because it is always there, unacknowledged. But the moment it's locked away, its true value is recognized, its rarity celebrated. That is the effect of your absence. The notifications that once lit up their phone, the warmth of your attention, the reliability of knowing you'd always be there, all vanish, leaving behind an emptiness that forces them to reckon with what they've lost. They might ask, why are they so calm? Why are they not desperate for attention anymore? The answer lies in the strength of self-worth. When you choose not to overextend yourself or chase constant approval, you become unforgettable. You shift from being a routine part of their day to an irreplaceable memory. Instead of being the person who's always available on demand, you become a reminder of what once was. A quiet, steadfast presence that could no longer be taken for granted. This transformation is not about retaliation. It's about reclaiming control. It's about understanding that true value isn't measured by how often you're contacted, but by the depth of the connection you offer. You once gave your time and energy freely, assuming that your consistency was guaranteed. But as the ancient wisdom of Stoicism teaches us, nothing in life is assured, not even you. Your detachment is not a loss. It is a declaration that you will no longer settle for being sidelined. Think about a melody that once filled a room with life. At first, every note was cherished, each rhythm embraced. But if that melody is played on an endless loop, it eventually fades into the background, its beauty lost in repetition. Similarly, when you're always present, your impact becomes routine, almost invisible. The moment you step away, however, your absence resonates like a silent chord, leaving behind a lingering echo that makes them realize what they once had. They may find themselves caught off guard, suddenly aware of the gap you've left behind. Perhaps they will sit in silence, reflecting on the fact that every text, every call, every gesture of care was not just a routine, it was a gift they failed to treasure. And as they begin to notice this loss, a series of questions might arise. Did I ever truly value them? When did I stop noticing their worth? Can I ever take someone like that for granted again? These are the bitter yet necessary questions that prompt personal growth and self-reflection. The transformation is powerful. When you no longer serve as a constant, you force them to re-evaluate their own behavior and expectations. No longer in the running, you become a standard of excellence they can no longer ignore. You show them that self-respect is not something to be compromised, and that real connection is built on mutual appreciation rather than assumed presence. This process may come with discomfort and even regret, but it is the true price of allowing yourself to be seen as merely an option. Instead, by stepping back, you illuminate your intrinsic value. The realization hits like a sudden downpour after a long drought, a cleansing moment where clarity replaces complacency. In reclaiming your space, you set a new standard. Your absence becomes a masterclass in self-worth, teaching them that what was once freely given is now a rare treasure. And in that silence, in that newfound void, they learn that you were never meant to be just another face in the crowd. You were the embodiment of stability, the beacon of calm in the chaos of life, and now, in your absence, your true worth shines brighter than ever. For they finally realize what was never free. They see it now, the value they once took for granted. Every effort, every patient word, every genuine act of care wasn't simply handed out. It was an investment. And now, with your absence, they finally understand the cost of what they lost. People often fail to recognize the worth of what's always been at their fingertips until it suddenly vanishes. When something is constantly available, it gradually slips into the realm of the ordinary. But the moment it's gone, the silence that follows speaks louder than any clamor ever could. Seneca wisely noted, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And here, the reality is harsh, a void where comfort once resided. They might now ask themselves, how did I not see it before? It's like having a warm light in a room that you only notice when the switch is flipped off. When your presence was a constant, it was easily overlooked, almost like the background hum of everyday life. Yet, as with all things, absence brings clarity. Imagine a favorite painting that hangs on the wall every day. Its colors and form become so familiar that you stop noticing the intricate details that once captivated you. But if you remove that painting, the space is filled with an emptiness that forces you to recall the beauty you once ignored. Your consistent presence was that masterpiece, a blend of care, attention, and love that they simply assumed would always be there. But now, with you gone, every quiet moment becomes a reminder of what they once lost. They might wonder why they only now feel the sting of that absence. It's because the mind has a curious way of romanticizing what it no longer has. In those unexpected moments of solitude, memories surface. The times when you showed up without hesitation, when your words offered comfort, when your actions spoke volumes. These weren't just small gestures. They were the very foundation of a connection that was carelessly dismissed as routine. Marcus Aurelius once stated, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." In your silence, change has arrived. It's a transformation that forces them to confront the reality of what they overlooked. The comfort they once assumed was as common as air now reveals itself as an irreplaceable treasure. They're left to grapple with questions that perhaps were unthinkable before. When did I stop valuing this? How could I let something so vital slip away? These questions echo in the quiet moments, prompting a painful clarity that shatters the illusion of permanence. It's not about revenge or a dramatic exit. It's about balance. In choosing detachment, you demonstrated a fundamental truth. Self-worth is non-negotiable. Epictetus taught, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." By stepping back, you refused to be governed by someone who failed to recognize your worth. You reclaimed your power and left them to face the consequences of neglect. Your absence isn't a weapon. It's a mirror reflecting their own inattention and complacency. Think of it like a garden that's been overwatered. When the soil is always saturated, the plants grow dull, their colors muted by familiarity. But when the water is withheld, the garden reveals its true essence. Every bloom becomes a vivid reminder of the care it once received. Your presence was like that nurturing rain. Without it, the landscape of their heart dries up, leaving behind the stark realization of what they once took for granted. They may now find themselves sifting through memories, each recollection a bittersweet reminder of the times when you were the steady force in their life. They'll recall how you prioritized them without a second thought, the nights you lent your ear when words failed them, the subtle acts of kindness that never demanded acknowledgement. Now, in the silence that stretches out like an endless night, every unreturned message, every unfilled void, forces them to confront the truth. You were never just another person in their life. You were the foundation of something meaningful. As the days go by, this truth becomes an unwelcome guest that lingers in every corner of their mind. They start to wonder if they can ever fill the space you left behind. They ask themselves, could I ever appreciate something once I've lost it? The answer, as painful as it may be, lies in the very nature of human experience. Only when something essential is removed do we learn to value it. In the grand tapestry of life, your absence has become a stark lesson in self-respect and the high cost of indifference. What was once considered routine has transformed into a glaring deficit that nothing else seems capable of replacing. And in that emptiness, they finally see what they never did before, the true worth of what was freely given. Your departure wasn't a loss to be mourned lightly. It was the unveiling of a truth too profound to ignore, that the gift of your presence was never guaranteed, and its absence now paints the picture of what was always priceless. 5. Never replaceable. When attachment becomes one-sided, it drags them down like an anchor in turbulent waters. They never beg for recognition or demand applause. Instead, they quietly observe, recognize the truth, and act accordingly. When they sense that their value is being taken for granted, they don't lash out or try to prove themselves. They simply step away, leaving behind a silence that speaks volumes. And that is what unsettles the one who once assumed control. They believed they had all the time in the world, that you would always be there waiting, but time is relentless, and so are you. Now, a gnawing fear begins to take root, a fear that someone else might see in you what they were too blind to appreciate. Imagine a grand oak tree in a vast meadow. For years, its sturdy presence goes unnoticed, its leaves blending with the ever-present green. Yet one day, a gust of wind shakes the branches, and suddenly, the tree's majesty is undeniable. In much the same way, your consistent presence was once so familiar that it faded into the background. They assumed you'd always be there, an ever-present fixture in their landscape. But when you withdraw, when you no longer check in or light up their phone with your messages, the space you leave behind is not empty. It's a declaration. Your absence becomes a testament to your self-respect, and it forces them to confront a reality they never wished to acknowledge. They might start to wonder, well, why? Well, what did I fail to see? As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. Your decision to step away isn't a dramatic exit. It's a natural evolution, a change that makes your worth impossible to ignore. The truth is, they thought they could push you around, that you'd be there to pick up the pieces no matter how little effort they put in. But when you choose not to be a backup plan, when you decide to live your life fully, rather than simply survive on the scraps of their attention, you become something rare and remarkable. Envision a priceless painting in a gallery, one that hangs there every day until its absence suddenly makes the wall seem bare and lifeless. That painting was once taken for granted, its beauty overlooked in the monotony of everyday familiarity. But once removed, its absence forces everyone to recall its brilliance, to realize that what was once so easily accessible was, in fact, invaluable. Your steady, unwavering support was that masterpiece. And now, with you gone, the stark void makes it clear. You were never meant to be taken lightly. There's an unsettling irony in the way they react. They had the illusion of control over your attention, convinced that they could push you away only to pull you back when it suited them. But by withdrawing, you dismantled that illusion. The absence of your presence isn't a punishment. It's a mirror held up to their own complacency. They begin to question, in hushed moments of self-doubt, whether you might be thinking of someone else, whether you found a new source of light to fill the space they abandoned. Each unanswered question becomes like a stone, gradually building a wall of regret and realization that they've lost something truly extraordinary. In the realm of human emotion, a stoic individual doesn't seek revenge or act out of spite. Instead, they allow their self-respect to speak for them. As Epictetus wisely observed, any person capable of angering you becomes your master. By choosing silence and retreat instead of desperate clinging, you've reclaimed your power. You've proven that your worth isn't measured by constant validation or the frequency of messages. Instead, it shines through in the quiet dignity of your absence, a presence so potent that it forces them to face the painful truth of what they've neglected. Picture a delicate clock ticking steadily in a quiet room. When its ticking is part of the background noise, it's easy to ignore. But remove that familiar sound, and suddenly the silence is overwhelming. Your absence is much like that missing tick, a subtle yet relentless reminder that the rhythm of their life has been disrupted. They begin to understand that the calm confidence you once embodied was not something to be taken for granted, but a vital part of what made your connection so meaningful. As this realization sets in, the fear of being replaced takes root. They are haunted by the possibility that someone else, a person who recognizes the true value of strength, consistency, and quiet dignity, might step in and claim what they once dismissed as guaranteed. The thought of losing you to someone who truly appreciates every aspect of your being gnaws at them relentlessly. It's a torment not born out of jealousy alone, but of the bitter recognition that in taking you for granted, they let an irreplaceable presence slip away. In that silence, in that deliberate absence, lies a lesson far deeper than any spoken word. It's a lesson in self-respect, in understanding that real worth is not measured by how often you're around, but by the quality of the energy you bring. And when you remove that energy, you leave behind a void that no amount of empty reassurance can fill. They are left to reckon with the hard truth. You were never simply an option to be toggled on or off at their convenience. You were, and always will be, something far more valuable than they ever imagined. 6. Regret comes knocking. Regret is a slow-burning ember that eventually ignites when least expected. It creeps in quietly, first as a fleeting thought when an old message pops up, or when a familiar song stirs a memory of days gone by. At first, it's barely noticeable, just a gentle tug on the heart. But over time, that tug intensifies until it becomes an undeniable ache, echoing in the spaces where your presence once warmed the room. They start to wonder, how did something so certain slip away? Imagine a cherished sculpture, admired every day until one morning it's gone. The space it occupied feels strangely empty, and every glance in that void is a reminder of the beauty lost. That is the nature of regret. It is the quiet, relentless voice that whispers, "I never truly valued what I had until it was gone." Seneca warned that regret is the price paid for not cherishing what you have while you still do. In a life where your patience, care, and constant presence were taken as guaranteed, the absence that follows isn't born of malice or pettiness. It's simply the natural consequence of neglect. When you were always there, they had the luxury of dismissing your worth. They believed they had endless time to figure things out, assuming your kindness and unwavering energy were infinite. But reality, as always, has its own plans. Now, in the silence that has replaced the lively exchange of messages, there is a profound shift. The moments they once took for granted, the spontaneous texts, the shared laughter, even the quiet comfort of knowing you were always available, are now memories that sting with truth. They start to recognize that what they considered routine was in fact a treasure, a vital part of their existence. In the quiet of late nights, as they scroll through old photos and memories, they come face to face with the truth. You were never just an option. You were a priority they dismissed too easily. Marcus Aurelius once remarked, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." But when that change comes unexpectedly, it brings not delight, but a heavy burden of remorse. They might ask themselves, how did I let this slip by? When did I stop noticing the significance of your presence? These questions, like ripples in a still pond, spread out into every corner of their mind, each one a stark reminder of what has been lost. Think of it as a garden that was once vibrant and full of life. Every day the colors and scents were so familiar that they faded into the background, unnoticed. Yet, when the garden is abandoned, every wilted petal and every barren branch screams of neglect. Your constant presence was like that garden in full bloom, a source of comfort and beauty that they assumed would always be there. Now, with your absence, the landscape of their heart is barren, and regret takes root in every forgotten corner. They find themselves haunted by memories of simpler times, when your messages filled the void and your support was as constant as the tide. Now, each reminder, be it an old conversation or the soft glow of a screen in the midnight hour, brings with it the painful awareness that what once was taken for granted is now painfully irreplaceable. The weight of regret settles in like dust over cherished moments, transforming them into relics of a past that can never be reclaimed. In the echo of that silence, your absence becomes a powerful teacher. Epictetus once observed, "We suffer not from events in themselves, but from our judgments about them." And right now, their judgment is shifting. They begin to see that the warmth you provided, the care you offered, and the consistent presence you maintained were not mere conveniences. They were the very foundation of a deep, meaningful connection. They come to understand that your kindness was not an endless resource, but a finite gift, one that they squandered by taking it for granted. Now, with every unanswered call and every unacknowledged message, regret deepens its hold. It is a slow, insidious process that transforms casual indifference into a harsh confrontation with reality. They may lie awake at night, haunted by the realization that the person who once enriched their life is now just a memory, a ghost in the silence. The absence of your steady, reassuring presence forces them to confront a truth they once refused to acknowledge. They did not truly value you when you were there. In that quiet space where your voice no longer echoes, every moment becomes a lesson, a painful reminder that the most valuable things in life are often taken for granted until they are gone. Your absence, far from being a void, is now a resounding testament to your worth. It shows them that what they once overlooked was irreplaceable, and in this harsh clarity, regret is the cost they must bear for having failed to appreciate you fully. As they navigate this new reality, each day becomes a slow reckoning with the past, a journey through memories that now carry the weight of lost opportunity. They come to see that while silence might have once been comforting, it now speaks a language of regret that is as undeniable as it is transformative. The lesson is stark. True value is recognized only when it is missed, and the price of taking something precious for granted is a regret that lingers long after the moment has passed. 7. Indifference speaks volumes. They reach out testing the waters only to sense that something has shifted. It's not bitterness or a desire to wound. It's a quiet absence of care, a calm indifference that unsettles them more profoundly than any angry word ever could. When you were always there, constantly available, ready to listen, willing to chase down every doubt, they grew comfortable in the illusion of certainty. They assumed you'd always be an option, a safe harbor in the storm of life. But now, your silence echoes like a cold wind, and everything changes. People rarely appreciate what they once took for granted until its absence becomes undeniable. Think of it like a favorite melody that played softly in the background. Over time, it became part of the landscape, unnoticed and unremarkable. Then, one day, the music stops, and the silence that follows is jarring, a void where comfort once lived. Your absence is not merely the lack of words or attention, it is the disappearance of a presence that once filled their world with warmth and assurance. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Do not waste time on what you cannot control. Focus on what you can change." And you have changed, not out of spite or petty revenge, but in the way a person does when they finally recognize their own worth. In embracing your value, you no longer tether your identity to someone else's validation. You understand that clinging to another person's approval is a form of weakness. You do not dictate how others see you. Instead, you control how you carry yourself. By stepping back, you are not playing a calculated game. You're simply accepting the reality that they had their chance and now must face life without the constant reassurance of your presence. Imagine a garden that has always been tended, its flowers blooming at predictable intervals. Over time, the caretaker becomes so familiar that the beauty is taken for granted, until one day, the gardener leaves. The garden, once vibrant and full of life, begins to wither as every bloom is missed and every petal seems duller in the absence of care. That garden is a metaphor for your relationship with them, your daily gestures, your comforting words, your readiness to be there. These were the nurturing rains that made everything flourish. And now, without that steady presence, the landscape begins to reveal its neglected corners. They might ask themselves, when did things change? What did I overlook? The answer lies in the unspoken truth, the warmth of a familiar voice, the comfort of knowing someone is truly thinking about you. These are not infinite, nor are they a given. Just as a candle burns steadily until the flame flickers and dies, your presence once illuminated their days. Now that light is gone, leaving behind a darkness that speaks of loss. The absence you have created is not a punishment or a challenge. It is a stark reminder that nothing is permanent and nothing is owed. Epictetus wisely observed, "He is not a wise man who gives many counsel, but rather who, having a good understanding of the world, knows how to act wisely." In stepping away from constant availability, you have acted wisely. You have embraced the power of detachment, a force not born of callousness, but of self-respect. They now face the truth that your attention, your care, was never an endless resource. It was a gift, one that they assumed would always be present, much like the morning sun that rises without fail. Yet, when the sun hides behind the clouds, its absence makes the chill all the more biting. Now, as they navigate their days, every quiet moment, every pause between thoughts, is filled with the realization that you no longer serve as the safety net you once were. They recall the times when your words mended hurt, when your presence was a constant reminder of what it meant to be cared for. And in those memories, there's a growing understanding. They only recognized your value when it was too late. The void you left is a testament to the truth that what is always available is often undervalued. Perhaps they now wonder if you might be thinking of someone else, if another person's light has replaced the unique glow you once shared. But the irony is that your silence is not meant to instill fear, but to teach a profound lesson. That true connection is not about being on call, about being the default option in someone's life. It's about mutual respect and genuine appreciation. When one stops chasing constant validation, when one dares to value oneself over the fleeting approval of others, that change resonates deeply. Consider the metaphor of a lighthouse that guides ships safely to shore. For as long as the light shone every night, sailors took its presence for granted, relying on its predictable glow. But if that lighthouse were to go dark, the ships would drift aimlessly, realizing too late the indispensable role it played. Your unwavering presence was that guiding light, a beacon of stability and care. And now, in your calm indifference, the darkness forces them to confront the loss of what once was a vibrant, essential part of their world. The transformation is not about winning or losing, it's about growth and understanding. Your indifference, far from being a void, is a declaration of self-worth. It is the subtle yet powerful acknowledgement that your value does not depend on constant affirmation. And in this quiet evolution, everything changes. They come to see that when you stop giving your all simply because it was expected, you rise to a level where your absence speaks louder than any words ever could. 8. It ain't just missing you. They don't simply miss you, they miss the very essence of life that you brought with you. It isn't just about your absence, it's about the energy, the support, and the effortless way you made every day feel lighter. They once took for granted the rare and steady presence you offered, assuming it was a given, a constant like the sunrise. Over time, that constancy became so familiar that it slipped into the background, unappreciated and overlooked, until the moment came when it was no longer there. Now, in the echo of your silence, the full weight of that loss crashes down, and every moment feels more hollow without you. Imagine a warm, glowing fire that has long been a reliable source of comfort on a cold night. When the flames burn steadily, their heat is expected, almost taken for granted. But when that fire finally dies out, the sudden chill of the cold air is impossible to ignore. They are now experiencing that biting cold, the stark reminder that something precious was lost, and it won't be replaced by any other spark. Marcus Aurelius once reflected on the fleeting nature of life, saying, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." In this quiet truth, they see that your constant care, your reliability, was never ordinary. It was extraordinary, and its loss leaves an unfillable void. They might ask themselves, when did I start taking it for granted? Or, how did I fail to notice the value of what was right in front of me? The answers lie in the comfort of familiarity. When something is always there, it fades into the background like a favorite song on endless repeat, until its melody is missed most when silence settles in. In your presence, they had a secure harbor, a steady lighthouse guiding them through life's storms. Now that the light has dimmed, every memory of your warm smile, every recollection of your kind words, echoes like a bittersweet reminder of a time when everything felt right. Your presence was never just another option. It was the difference between feeling whole and feeling lost. When you were around, even the smallest moments, those simple gestures of kindness, the quiet support in the midst of chaos, became the building blocks of trust and connection. They assumed you'd always be ready to listen, that you'd always be there to make things easier. And in doing so, they mistook routine for reliability, comfort for commitment. Now, with your absence, those once overlooked moments take on new meaning, highlighting the reality that nothing lasts forever. As Epictetus wisely observed, we suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. Their judgment is shifting with the silence that follows your departure. The realization dawns slowly, like the first light of dawn after a long, dark night. They begin to understand that the moments they once casually dismissed, the countless times you listened when no one else did, the patience you offered without question, were not infinite resources. They were treasures, finite and irreplaceable, lost in the wake of neglect. They find themselves sifting through old messages and photos, each relic a silent testament to the care you once provided. It's not simply that you're gone, it's that the feeling of safety and warmth you embodied has vanished. They're left wondering how something that felt so sure could simply evaporate, leaving behind an emptiness that no substitute can fill. Your absence isn't a cruel punishment or a vindictive act. It's simply the natural consequence of a choice made without full awareness of its value. The loss is profound. It's as if they were sailing smoothly on calm seas, unaware of the hidden rocks beneath, until one day the water turns cold and rough. They are forced to confront the fact that what they thought was permanent has slipped away like sand through their fingers. And in that moment, regret begins its slow burn, intensifying with every unanswered call and every quiet night spent alone with their thoughts. They remember the way you made them feel, secure, understood, and deeply valued. And now, in the stark silence of your absence, those memories become almost painful. In the end, it's not just about missing you, it's about mourning the loss of a kind of life that seemed effortless when you were there. They now grasp the truth that the simple, everyday acts of love and care, once taken for granted, are the very things that make life meaningful. The space you occupied was not just a physical presence, but a sanctuary of trust and compassion, something that once filled their days with purpose. And now, with that sanctuary empty, the realization hits hard. You were irreplaceable. Your silence has become a powerful statement. It isn't born of anger or bitterness, but of a profound recognition of self-worth. You never needed to prove your value because your presence was already a gift, one that can never be replicated. And so, as they sit with the echo of your absence, every moment becomes a lesson in appreciation. The warmth you once provided now serves as a benchmark for what it means to truly value the people who make our lives brighter. In that quiet, inescapable reality, they finally see that the loss is more than just missing you. It is the painful, inevitable truth that some treasures once gone leave an everlasting void. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.